So we're just going to scroll on through this document, and the aim of this video is to pick out the most important parts that are going to get you the most points in the SCS exam. But of course I hear you say, but of course, why bother with the industry pack? What's the point of it? Well, if we look at the opening of the pre-scene, we'll see a scenario, a role that you'll have to adopt in the exam. You see, the case study is like a role play, and for the exam, you'll be playing the role of a senior manager at Runn in the finance function. And in the exam, you'll have to report to the board and advise on the best strategy going forward for the company. And the reason why you need to understand the industry is because the examiners expect you to have an excellent knowledge of the pre-scene industry and to demonstrate this in the exam. Now, the case study is designed to test your application of real-world knowledge and not test your theoretical knowledge. That is done in F3, P3 and E3. So what we're doing here in this video is to make sure that you get the best possible marks in the exam by making sure you hit the examiner's expectations and apply real-world knowledge in your case study exam. And now that we've introduced what the industry analysis is, it's time to introduce what the actual courier industry is. Now, I'm sure that some of you have used a courier service before. If you ever ordered a parcel online, say from Amazon or eBay, you would have likely had your parcel delivered by a courier. Now, with couriers, they are in fact a very old industry. They go back millennia. But what you need to know for this exam, what you need to know for this industry analysis, is that couriers have historically been about the expedient delivery of items between 2 points. And one of the companies you'll become intimately familiar with for this industry pack will be UPS. Courier that's over 100 years old, pioneered many of the methods and techniques that all couriers use today. And one of the key factors in their success and all other successful couriers is that they personalize the package and they provide an on-demand service where they deliver the package at allotted times at the client's request. Some of the points worth mentioning is that packages were only delivered to people's houses relatively recently, within the last half a century, and this will become important when you learn about something called e-commerce and how that has been an important growth area for the courier industry. Secondly, there's also the rise of aviation usage in the courier industry. This will have important implications when we get onto environmental and political issues. Lastly, there's also the rise of telecommunications technology like GPS tracked packages. This has allowed the courier industry to expand and make its service more efficient in ways that maybe about 30 years ago weren't possible. And this has helped give rise to a new market, the customer market, which again we'll see later is an important but albeit small area of growth for the courier industry. And what relevance does this have to the pre-scene? Well, as one of the oldest in the courier industry, Runn will have a key advantage over its younger competitors because it will have experience in how to deal with changing consumer demands and how to adapt new technology into its business. And secondly, Runn has maintained its competitive advantage over the last century by adapting technology to make its service more efficient. And as we go through this industry analysis video, you'll see how these different points connect up and play their part in the bigger issues that persist in the courier industry and how different companies are trying to address them. Now, besides the history, we also have the services that couriers provide. There's a variety, so I'll just cover them in brief. We have international shipping, which most of you are probably familiar with. We have same day and next day delivery, which has become increasingly popular lately due to demand from customers to have their parcels delivered within 24 hours and in some cases now within the day. One of the newer developments in the courier industry, however, is courier management software. Now, just to give you an idea of what this is, basically, it's any kind of software that will allow the courier to connect, say, their services to the digital storefront of one of their business customers. What it is, it outsources the distribution and delivery to the courier so that the business can focus on its core competencies instead. And as for direct competitors, they include UPS, TNT, Hermes, but one you might not recognize is Amazon Logistics. They're relatively new. They are essentially Amazon's attempt to integrate the distribution of their packages internally rather than rely on external courier services. And the thing you need to take away from this list is that pretty much all the couriers have the same services. They provide international, domestic, and management software. There's very little that differentiates them. Now, scrolling down to service trends, some key figures to take away is that the courier and parcel industry in the UK is forecast to reach £21.5 billion in revenue by the end of 2019, and it has a compound annual growth rate of 1.7%. Now, when you break the figure down, you'll see how the different markets contribute to this figure. Now, the first segment we'll look at is the business-to-consumer delivery. This segment's responsible for generating 32% of all revenue, or £6.9 billion, and the reason for this segment's growth is due to the demand for business-to-consumer parcel delivery, which has grown as a result of the rise in e-commerce. The business-to-business segment is the second largest segment in the UK and contributes 30% of all revenue. Now, it is expected that the B2B segment will continue to grow, but at a slower pace. And this is the result of the increasing demand for business-to-consumer delivery services instead. And it has even resulted in some previously exclusive B2B couriers to swap over and adapt their services to business-to-consumer instead. However, it's not just parcel delivery that contributes to the business-to-business revenue. There's also been a recent development in the rise of courier management software, which has also contributed to the segment's revenue generation. Some of the largest couriers, like UPS, are now leveraging their expertise and their resources in software technology to sell to businesses its own proprietary software that will allow businesses to have greater control of their inventory, but also give them a closer relationship with their business partners. And just to give you an idea of how this market is growing, it is growing at a compound annual growth rate of 11%. And it's expected this will grow further as demand for a more efficient supply chain increases. And lastly, the consumer-to-consumer segment. Now, this segment is worth discussing, despite its small size only accounting for 2% of industry revenue, because it is slowly growing in popularity due to the rise of online shopping and online auction houses such as eBay and delivery services like Uber Eats, where now customers sell to each other rather than businesses sell to customers. So, of course, how does this apply to the pre-scene? Well, using the pre-scene, we can see how Runn has segmented its services between two broad categories, high volume and low volume. High volume is best categorized as their business-to-business and business-to-customer services. One example of this would be Runn Web, which is an example of courier management software, which, as we've just mentioned, that is about selling to businesses proprietary software that will connect the courier and the business client together and create a unified system. In contrast to high volume is low volume, and this would be best categorized as their business to consumer, perhaps more suitably their consumer to consumer services. The reason being is that they're most suitable for customers who use auction house retailers like eBay, where customers often need to make one-off deliveries between each other. So for example, their click and send service is an example of how a customer could request a parcel to be picked up from their household rather than, say, from a warehouse, which is something that a business would use. Overall then, Runn have a wide variety of services, and what the objective of these services is to improve efficiency and expand their market share. So of course, some are exclusively for corporations, others are for consumer to consumer. Runn are trying to diversify and make sure that they occupy all areas of the courier industry market. And of course, their focus on efficiency is reflected in the decline in Runn's average selling price per delivery. They themselves admit in the pre-scene that the decline in delivery price has only been possible due to efficiency improvements in Runn's operations. And so, of course, it's just to reinforce the fact that Runn's business model is to make itself more efficient and provide a wide range of services to all its customers. Now, as for the competitors and how they apply to the pre-scene, Runn directly competes with the largest couriers in the industry, namely UPS, FedEx, and DHL. However, little differentiates these four between each other, as they all provide the same services. The main area that differentiates Runn from these three is that Runn is beginning to focus more on the customer-to-customer markets. Not greatly, but it's beginning to shift its attention to it. Runn recognizes that there's a potential opportunity in the growing consumer-to-consumer market, which of course is reflected in the accessibility of the click and send service they provide, where a tablet or a smartphone are used instead of a desktop computer terminal. Other competitors, however, are looking to make their services more efficient by using lifestyle couriers, which we'll learn about more later, but essentially they are freelance couriers that use their own vehicles to deliver parcels. And lastly, another area of importance for Runn in relation to its competitors is its desire to internationally expand. Of course, Runn's biggest competitors are international suppliers, so it needs to have a global network in order to compete effectively. Regionally, Asia Pacific is projected to account for 50% of all global trade lines. So these regions are showing increasing domestic consumption and are a growing e-commerce market. Okay then, home stretch. The final chapter of the industry analysis is now the industry examples. Now, how are you supposed to use this? So, in this chapter, what we're going to go through is a sample of the 25 examples that are relevant key issues for the industry and some of the ways in which you can use these examples in your CIMA case study exam. The first of these examples is FedEx and Amazon. Now, what's happened quite recently is that the FedEx CEO, Fred Smith, has now recognized Amazon, who was, as we've mentioned many times in this analysis pack now, a competitor. So that is a traditional courier company now recognizing their own retailer, their own business partner, as a competitor in their own business. As a result of this development, FedEx have actually decided to end their contract with Amazon. In August 2019, they decided not to renew it. Now, how is this relevant to the case study? Well, this demonstrates the importance of the retail e-commerce business to the revenue of couriers. It is also a sign of the growing competitiveness that is brewing within the courier industry, where now even the retailers are beginning to slowly encroach on the domain of the courier businesses. So as you can see, the main issues this example deals with is competition, customers, and supply chain. So customers being the fact that Amazon are technically a customer of FedEx. They've now become a competitor, and they are disrupting the supply chain business model that the courier business operates on. So how would you write this in the exam? Well, the key point about this example is to illustrate why dependency on retailers is problematic for couriers. And what Runn needs to do, it needs to assess the competitive landscape and look at trying to reduce its dependency on retailers as a precaution against future trends, against retailers who are potentially trying to forward integrate. Going back to an earlier topic like technology, remember, technology is now making it easier for people to enter the courier business because there's less to differentiate them now, technology-wise. So there's a chance that more and more new entrants, especially retailers, may start entering the courier business and integrate distribution into their own systems. The fifth example, which we'll cover in this video, is UPS's failed acquisition of TNT. Now, in 2012, UPS attempted to acquire TNT. And what happened was that the European Commission blocked them. And in that time, between 2012 and today, FedEx actually acquired TNT in 2016. And this resulted in a dispute between UPS and the European Commission. Now, what relevance does this have to the pre-scene? The point is that there was a blocking of UPS's strategy by a political body. This is the problem with acquiring companies overseas, because there may be political issues or laws that prevent you from investing in a new country, one of which being an acquisition of a larger company. So, how would you write this in the exam? Well, Runn may need to consider a merger or acquisition if it wants to expand globally. However, when it expands to these new political territories, there may be regulations, or the government itself might be hostile to foreign business expansion. Runn will need to assess the political bodies that govern the country and decide whether or not it is likely they will block acquisitions, and if they do, then they've got to strategize another way of entering the country, or completely forego it and decide to go somewhere else that is more hospitable to foreign investment. And on to the seventh and final example for this video. We have drone delivery regulation. Now, in recent years, with the rise of drone technology, companies like Amazon and Google have started experimenting with autonomous drone delivery. However, in 2016, the Obama administration restricted the usage of drones for commercial purposes due to it being untested technology. There's no idea how safe it would be, what would happen if, say, the parcel fell on someone. So restrictions were put in place to curb how heavy the parcels were these drones could carry, the line of sight operators must have, and the licenses which they must own in order to fly these drones. So overall, this has completely crippled the ambition of Amazon or Google to use autonomous drone delivery. So what relevance does this have to the pre-scene? Well, for one, it highlights how new technology can be used in the courier business to make it more efficient, and also how the government can potentially stop that technology being used. Now, how would you write this in the exam, though? Well, as we're quite aware by this point, Runn are constantly striving to reduce the delivery time of their packages, and of course make the service just a bit more efficient. However, let's say that they decide that, we'll use 3D printer technology to make 3D printed parts. That will reduce the time it takes to acquire the parts and then deliver them to the relevant customer. If we could just print them in-house, it cuts the delivery time massively. However, say that those 3D printed parts are used in delicate machinery that might use instead metallic parts, like airplanes or cars. This might draw the attention of the government. It may make them act to say that you're not allowed to use 3D printed plastic parts in commercial or transport vehicles. So, as a result, Runn have wasted their money invested in technology which they now can't use for the purpose they intended it for. And so it's just an area that couriers have to be concerned about when they want to use new technology to automate a process. What kind of backlash would they receive from the government? Now, having watched that sample, I would like to take the opportunity to tell you about some of the other products that Astranti offer in relation to the CIMA case study exams. Now, the first of these is a study text. The study text is available for all 3 CIMA case study levels, and it contains comprehensive advice on how to pass each relevant level of the case study exam. This advice ranges from tips on how to pass the exams, how they are marked, and what you need to do to get these marks, all the way through to writing style and other key advice. For individual sittings, we produce the pre-scene analysis video. These are a range of videos where an expert in the office dissects the pre-scene in minute detail, bringing out some of the key points, what you need to be aware of in the industry, and really give you a thorough understanding of the company that you'll need to take into the exam with you. These pre-scene analysis videos are then supplemented by the industry analysis pack. Now, you'll be aware of this if you just watched our sample video on the industry analysis. Essentially, all it is that the pack contains an analysis of the broader industry behind the fictional case study company that is in the pre-scene for the CIMA case study exam. So what we do in this analysis pack is that we look at the industry itself, its competitors, things that get into the detail of the industry so you don't have to do the research as part of your revision. You can just focus on doing what's important, and that's preparing for the exam. What we then do, crucially, is that we compare the industry analysis to the case study company. So, what we have here that you've just seen is a sample of the industry analysis video, but what we primarily produce is the industry analysis document, which is what the pre-scene analysis video is based off of. Now, on top of the industry analysis, we also provide mock exams. We provide a range of individual mocks along with a range of questions that will prepare you for the CIMA exam sitting. But we don't only just provide questions. We also provide comprehensive, detailed solutions that you can compare your answers to, and then if you're willing, you can also choose to have those solutions marked by a CIMA qualified accountant. They will give you personalized feedback on all your answers, and it will give you that extra edge in helping you pass the CIMA case study exam. Now, we also provide a comprehensive masterclass. And what this masterclass is, it's really good for people who are perhaps taking the exam close to the deadline. It's also good for those who just want a comprehensive overview of everything that the exam will cover. And you can watch these masterclass videos live or as a recording, whatever is most convenient for you. And finally, we do have a lot of confidence in the quality of our material. So if you purchase our full pack, and if you unfortunately do not pass the exam using this pack, we will offer you a pass guarantee. And what this essentially means is that we will provide you with free materials for the next course sitting and get you to pass the next time. So all that's left for me to say is, once again, thank you very much for watching, and best of luck in your exam from everyone here at Astranti. Thank you.